Okay, I've been using this new M4 iPad Pro for the last few weeks, putting it through a lot of day-to-day work, gaming, and entertainment. And this is by far the most powerful and impressive iPad I've ever used, but I also think 95% of people shouldn't get one, and let me explain. Giving my thoughts up front, the M4 iPad Pro is just an incremental iPad upgrade disguised as the biggest ever iPad upgrade, and I don't think it's worth the price unless you absolutely need the few specific things that only this iPad can do. And I'll also recommend some other iPads and Apple products you should consider instead. Okay, so I have the new M4 iPad Pro in the 11-inch silver colorway. I was tempted by the new space black colorway, but I think the silver products from Apple look a little bit more timeless, and they also just match the rest of my Apple products a bit more. But the most obvious change this year is the iPad becoming unbelievably thin. And trust me, you won't grasp how thin it is until you actually see and use one in real life. And despite how thin it is, they managed to fit a bigger battery than last year and a more efficient M4 chip. So from a tech perspective, it is really impressive. That said, I don't think anyone was asking for an even thinner iPad. Like, I have the M1 iPad Pro from 2021 here, and I've been using this for a few years now and can think of so many other features that I would have wanted instead of the iPad becoming another 6mm thinner. Bigger battery, not removing the ultra-wide camera, better speakers, etc. And a lot of tech reviewers are talking about how you can literally see and feel the difference. Like, barely, yeah, if you're looking for it, but in most real life usage scenarios, there is literally no noticeable difference between 6mm of thickness and 20 grams or so of weight reduction, especially if you use the iPad with a case or a screen protector. I always rock my iPad with a screen protector and a case, and for my M4 iPad Pro, I've been using this setup from ESR. And they are sponsoring this video, but everything here is my own opinion. I've actually been using ESR accessories from way before they sponsored me, so I know they make high quality stuff at a fraction of the prices that Apple charges. So I'm using the Rebound magnetic keyboard case, and if you can't tell, this is basically an Apple Magic keyboard case alternative at less than half the price. For that price, this thing packs the same, if not more features than Apple's version. Obviously, you have a full-size keyboard that feels tactile and good enough to do some serious typing work on with adjustable backlit keys. The trackpad underneath has full multi-touch gesture support, so you can tap, swipe, zoom, and navigate the iPad super naturally. One thing I like about this more than Apple's keyboard is you get a lot more viewing angles and can even pop the iPad up like this to get a higher angle to make it easier for typing. And you can even flip the iPad to use vertically if you're doing any work that way. And I also don't constantly use my iPad with the keyboard, so this case actually lets me detach the iPad from the keyboard and still have a protective case for my iPad that I can use when I'm not typing. And to protect the screen, you guys know I've always used paper-like screen protectors because they just feel so much better to write on. But now that I'm no longer a student and don't need to take notes 24/7, I actually prefer not having a matte screen all the time, especially since I use my iPad a lot for consuming content now, and that doesn't look as good. But I still want to protect the iPad from micro scratches, so I'm rocking the Armorite screen protector, also from ESR, which is just a really high quality and durable tempered glass screen protector. It was super easy to install and it works perfectly with the Apple Pencil, so yeah, everything's just great in this setup. I'll link both of these products in the description below, along with some other iPad accessories that I've been using from ESR that really enhance the iPad experience and won't break the bank. So yeah, with any accessories like a case on, you probably won't notice the size difference of the new iPad. So really the only other change that Apple made was moving the selfie camera from the top to the side of the iPad, so it looks upright when it's used in a landscape orientation. And surprisingly, this is a really nice change because it pushes the iPad in the direction of becoming more than just a YouTube and Netflix watching device, because now you can join work calls or Zoom classes with this 12-megapixel front-facing camera that's higher quality than most webcams found on laptops today. But I don't think anyone will disagree with me when I say that these changes alone are not worth it to upgrade to the M4 iPad Pro. So let's talk about some of the more significant changes in this device that might make it worth the upgrade. Okay, so the screen and entertainment experience is one area where the new iPad Pro really sweeps the competition and just any other device in general. And it actually might be the one area where it could be worth the upgrade, because for the first time ever, the smaller 11-inch iPad Pro gets the same Ultra Retina XDR display found on the larger 13-inch model. I always get the smaller iPads, and in the past it's always meant having a worse screen than the larger 13-inch models, but for the first time ever, you're getting the best of the best display on the 11-inch iPad Pro as well. Specs-wise, that means a 2K dual OLED display, so literally there are two OLED panels stacked here, and that lets the screen get up to a max brightness of 1000 nits normally and 1600 nits when watching HDR content, which is double or triple what most other OLED screens on the market offer at this size. This is probably my single favorite change because I always felt like my 2021 iPad Pro was a little bit too dim in brighter conditions, and everything about this new display looks amazing, from the color accuracy to the contrast with the deep blacks. And again, the tech is really impressive when you're putting it through these side-by-side tests, but besides the difference in brightness, I wouldn't say that this screen immediately blew me away the first time I used it. Like, it still has the same resolution and refresh rate as the 2021 iPad Pro, which is already a very well-spec'd device. And as much as I love using this new iPad for watching TV shows and movies, for someone who doesn't use this for any professional art-related work where I absolutely need the new color accuracy or contrast, it just means paying a lot more for a better Netflix and YouTube watching experience. Realistically, unless you're a creative professional who can use the new iPad's display to its max potential, or someone who just works outdoors and needs the new max brightness of the iPad, the display changes are more of a nice-to-have upgrade and probably not worth the price if you're coming from any of the recent gen iPad Pros, especially if you have the 13-inch models where the mini LED displays get just as bright. Lastly, just to touch on screen real estate, I know that most tech reviewers have the 13-inch iPad Pro, but I personally think the 11-inch iPad Pro is the way to go for most people, and it's honestly big enough for 90% of the things you're going to want to do on the iPad, like day-to-day creative work, sketching, drawing, note-taking. You can really do everything comfortably here and still have it in a compact package. My workflow is also more laptop and PC oriented like most people, so unless you actually need the bigger screen, maybe if you're using the iPad as your main laptop replacement, which I wouldn't recommend, then maybe it might be worth the extra $300. Speaking of being a real laptop replacement, these new M4 iPad Pros, along with the upcoming iPad OS 18 update, have sort of restarted the conversation around the iPad being a real laptop replacement. And while the M4 chip in this is insane and faster than most real laptops on the market, I want to talk about why the overall performance of this device is the best and also worst part of the new iPad Pro. So like I mentioned, I've been using this 2021 iPad Pro for a few years now, and it's also the base model, but it's never once felt too slow or too laggy due to the chip itself. It handles every game on the App Store flawlessly, and I really mean that, as well as any video editing and other work that I throw at it. Sure, in benchmarks, the M4 chip crushes the M1 chip, but in real world use, there is literally no difference between the two. I think anything more than an M1 chip in an iPad today is pretty unnecessary because the performance of the iPad is still so limited by its software and other problems. For example, iPads are not optimized for a lot of external peripherals like keyboards and mice that aren't designed specifically for the iPad. If you just connect any random Bluetooth keyboard, it would probably work, but be kind of laggy, glitchy, and just unusable for work. So you won't get any of that on something like this ESR keyboard case, and that's how I mainly do work on my iPad. But if this was my main laptop replacement and I was limited to this small trackpad all the time, it probably wouldn't be ideal. iPads also don't work as well as real laptops when connected to an external display. Even with Stage Manager, it's just a clunky UI that's hard to get any real work done on. And there are just so many other smaller differences that make it difficult to do non-pen specific work on. Like the cursor isn't as accurate and you just get this circle that snaps onto things. A lot of iPad apps are simply not as good as the browser versions. Like on Gmail, you can't draft a new email while having another one open. And don't even get me started on file management and trying to transfer files with an iPad. Basically, all of my day-to-day performance related complaints on the M1 iPad Pro are still there for the M4 iPad Pro. So it's definitely not worth it if you have a recent M-chipped iPad Pro already. And given that you can pick up a used M1 iPad Pro for half the price of a new one now, that might even be the better choice. Especially now that iOS 18 has been revealed and hasn't really solved anything, it's clear that Apple won't let their iPads turn into a real laptop replacement anytime soon because they have their line of MacBooks to protect. So we're kind of stuck with an overpowered iPad year after year. Okay, I was gonna end the video here, but to be fair to the new iPad, if your workflow is purely stylus oriented, it might make a bit more sense to use this as your main laptop replacement. And I won't go into too much detail on the new Apple Pencil Pro because I'm not an artist and the extent of my pen use on the iPad is limited to sketching outlines for PowerPoint slides and designing thumbnails. But the new Pencil does have a lot of cool features, and the attention to detail with the new barrel roll and fake shadow is super impressive. But yeah, I don't have much to say here because the Apple Pencil Pro is the only Apple Pencil that's compatible with the new iPad Pro. So even if you had the Apple Pencil 2, which would be more than enough for most people who, again, aren't professional artists, you'll still have to upgrade. Okay, so to wrap things up, the M4 iPad Pro's biggest strength is also its biggest weakness. And as someone in the comment section of MKBHD's video put it, this is the most powerful tablet ever, but it's also the most powerful tablet ever. I won't deny that from a hardware and tech perspective, it's extremely impressive what Apple managed to do here, fitting a laptop-powered potential device with one of the best displays on the market into something thinner than an iPod that literally makes my iPhone look bulky. And despite all of the changes to its build and potential performance, it's still just going to be a powerful YouTube and Netflix watching device for most people. Obviously, there is a subset of pro users that Apple is targeting here, although I still doubt that there are many pro users that can live with just using an iPad and not find another laptop in their workflow. And that's probably what Apple wants for now. So it really isn't worth upgrading to the new M4 iPad Pro if you're coming from any of the recent gen iPads. I'm still doing the exact same things on my M4 iPad Pro that I was doing on my M1 iPad Pro, just with a slightly nicer screen and $1,300 fewer in my bank account. That's about it for my thoughts on the M4 iPad Pro after using it day to day for a few weeks. I'll link all of the ESR accessories I'm using in the description down below if you're interested in checking any of them out. And thanks again for watching until the end, and I'll see you guys next time.